What if you could create value by sacrificing something, but then later you had the option to get it back? That's what the V2 Federal Minters introduced, the way to stabilize value, grow value, and recycle value within a decentralized ecosystem through the introduction of the claim loop and a whole new DeFi flow logic. V2 Federal Minters and claim loops. So why V2? Just like V1, V2 minters let you burn one token, the parent, to mint another token, the child, but it all starts from the Fed. So in this example, obviously we have Fed, FDIC, DFM, and Parade. This was the first example of the V2 minters on Pulsechain. However, it introduces a new concept, claiming, or the claim loop. So with V1, you sacrifice one token for another, burning it to the contract to create new value. But with V2, this becomes a closed loop, as tokens on a contract can now be claimed back off it further up the line. So we're going to go through this in more detail. So the V2 claiming. So this here is the contract code. And if you don't understand code, don't worry. I'm going to simplify this and we're going to dumb it down so hopefully anyone can understand, because I also don't fully understand code. So there is a debenture function, which basically is the claim function. When it's true, in other words, when it's on, it allows anyone to claim tokens. However, it can be changed to false, which is off, by the contract creator. So a debenture is like an insurance claim. So you can view your burn tokens as being insured. And the big daddy is Fed. So this is why the federal minter, the V2 federal minter, should always be launched off the Fed, because it holds a key place in this introduced logic. It's created a new and unique design logic in decentralized finance. This is the Treasury Spine. And so I have done videos on the spine and the branch logic, so you can check that out here, but I will go into this in a little bit more detail in this particular episode. So the flow of V2, how does it flow? So before we go into that specific Treasury Spine, let's be clear on what this means. So basically, token A burns to mint token B. Then you launch off token B, and token B burns to mint token C. Then you launch off token C, and token C burns to mint token D. This can continue infinitely. But the interesting part of this is, as you mint tokens down the line from A to D, you can now loop tokens back to token B if the debenture is true, if the claim is on. So obviously not just token B, you can also loop back to token C and token A. And then assuming it's launched off the Fed, then this is where the power of the Fed comes in. So the logic is very simple. You need to be holding the next token up the spine to claim that token. Therefore, you need A and D to claim back to B. And you would need B and D to claim back to C. This is why the Fed is very special in the federal minter spines. So let's now go into the Treasury spine. So first, you have Treasury bill. And then launched off Treasury bill was the V1 minter, which was the Fed. And so I've done the videos on the V1 minter. You can check those out and the logic of that. There is no claim loop between Treasury bill and Fed. You can only burn one Treasury bill to mint one Fed. You cannot go back the other way. This is key. Now, the federal minter allows FDIC to be created off Fed, and then DFM off FDIC, then Parade off DFM, then so on and so forth, all the way until the end of the line. We get to bar, cheat on the bar exam. And then bar had many tokens launched off it. So what's that? 5, 10, 15, 20, 21 children tokens launched off the bar with the federal minter. Now, what's important here is, in the beginning, the debenture was true for all of these tokens, the beginning part of the Treasury spine, which means you could claim it back. When its debenture is true, basically the Treasury spine is in draft mode. So you can kind of consider it to be a way of stabilizing the structure before really launching it to the public in some ways. Now, Maria made this false. He turned this off. Now, the debenture is true on the children of the bar. So simple logic, basically take away debenture and let's just say claim. So the claim is on, the claim is off. So with the first few tokens from FDIC to bar, the claim is off. You cannot loop tokens back up the line within that portion of the spine. But from here, the claim is on. You can loop tokens back. So for example, if you wanted Parade, just like I showed in the previous example, you would need DFM in your wallet. And I'll show you why in just a moment. If you wanted to do the same, if you wanted Tellers, TLRZ, then you would need Parade in your wallet. It doesn't burn those Parade, although it does, but the supply doesn't get reduced. So I'll show you that the way that the contract actually works. So if we want to claim safety back up the line to Parade, then obviously we would need some bar so that we can either mint the safety or we would sell it into the safety. But obviously you don't really need the bar because you could buy safety with any other token that it's liquidity bonded with. But you do need DFM so that you can claim it up the line. So now we're going to go into this in more detail. So I'm just going to take these two pieces of the spine and show you in more detail. Now, you have bar. So let's say you minted safety with your bar. So now you have safety and you want to get some Parade. So in order to claim back up the line for Parade, you do need some DFM. And here's why. Because basically what happens is when you use the contract, which is all on a simple front end, Treasury Win, Treasury System.win, which I will show you that in just a moment. What happens through the contract is it takes out, for example, if I want to claim 20 million, it will take out 20 million safety tokens. At the same time, it will also take out 20 million DFM tokens. And then it will put in 20 million Parade tokens, but also 20 million DFM. So it's actually the DFM that the Parade is coming through, but you don't need to understand that. That's why I've graded out. The only thing that you need to understand about that is you need to have the DFM in order to claim up the line. And so that's the only thing that you really need to keep an eye on. You don't really need to understand how the contract works, although I will show you that in just a moment. So first, on the Treasury System.win, when you go to V2, you would go to FDIC and bar, and then you would click on the Parade before the interview. So this is the Parade. You must obviously have to have safety in your wallet or any of the children tokens in your wallet, really. And then you would enter the safety contract address once you press infinite mint. So you copy and paste the safety address here and you'll see a tick and then you get 20 million. And then you could confirm the transaction and then it will go through that loop process and therefore you'll be able to claim up the line. And so this is what it looks like. So very simply, it starts from your wallet address. It goes through DFM and then DFM goes through or gets swapped for Parade. And then basically things get burned, things get minted. And in the end, very simply, you're basically just swapping safety for Parade. You're claiming it up the line. So this is very, very significant. It's kind of nerdy, but it's very, very significant, even though at the moment the Treasury Spine value of the tokens is pretty much flat across the line. So it's pretty much equal to the price of gas. But arbitrage is the magic. So let's think about this. Let's simplify this. So if I have token A and I've launched it off Fed and I call it token A and I start with a starting supply of 10,000, then I launch token B off token A and I burn 1,000 of the tokens to mint 1,000 token Bs. So now I have 9,000 token A and 1,000 token B. And then I launch token C and now I burn 100 token B for 100 token C. However, in the way that the liquidity has been set up, there was an arbitrage opportunity. So I sold back the token C into token B for 110 and then minted it back. So now I have 110 tokens. So there's arbitrage. Now, as you go up the line, maybe you then burn 110 to mint 110, but this time there's arbitrage. You end up with 133. And then when you launch token E and eventually there's arbitrage opportunities, you burn those 133 tokens to mint 133 token E. And the arbitrage between the two ends up equaling 369 token E. So now all of a sudden, instead of just 100, which you were burning down the line, you now have 369. So you've made an extra 269 tokens. And so therefore, you have an extra 369 that you can swap back into this, and you would end up having more of token B than what you would have burned from the start. So this is very significant. This is the key part. So without even looking at token values and what they're worth, it's token quantities that is a significant part of this logic that I'm trying to show to you right now. So in other words, the same thing would happen in a contract. You would basically be burning 369 and minting 369 of the token A in order to do this. So you need to make sure that you would have token A. But I just want to clarify that because that's a very important distinction to make. Now, why is a spine beautiful? What has the V2 created? So it's basically created layered reversible sacrifice. You can commit value and be insured due to the debenture claim. This creates a non-linear value loop, which we're yet to see the full potential of. It's really like a living monetary organism, like a self-balancing nervous system, balancing liquidity and value up and down the spine. Why this matters? This is unprecedented liquidity design where each burn mints a new token layer, which can become its own sub-community of a spine. So value flows in multiple directions up and down the spine and sideways along it with the introduction of other minters, which I will go into in more detail in future episodes. So could it be a DAO? Could it be a framework of governance? Could it be a stabilizing force? Could it be an organism that regulates energy and in terms of value? Could it be something that empowers everyone as token holders? It really opens the door to possibilities. So what might it become? So if it's minted through sacrifice and it's reclaimable through trust, it's connected through claim loops and liquidity paths and governed by holders. It's the blueprint for a financial organism, one that can evolve, self-balance, and reallocate value in a non-extractive way, because you're always sacrificing tokens for tokens. You're not extracting anything out, you're claiming it, you're sacrificing it, you're burning it, you're minting it. Maybe one day, instead of a central bank to stabilize value and be an economic engine, you could have a treasury spine, which could be an economic engine room as a living organism for a truly decentralized financial system. So what do you guys think? For me, when I started learning about the treasury spine, it really blew my mind. There was something about the structure of it which really resonated for me. I could visualize in my mind this organism, this living form of energy with waves that are going up and down and sideways. And it's all just this force of energy that can flow out and pulse. And it's like a heartbeat of a whole economic system. That's how I saw the treasury spine. Why? Because it mimics the logic of life itself. You sacrifice to grow, you branch to adapt, you recycle to balance, you stabilize from within. It's not trying to replace fiat by mimicking it. It's trying to transcend it by doing what fiat never could. Empower the many, coordinate value transparently, and lock value in without locking people out. So if you like this video, please comment below, press the like, give me any feedback, as pretty much your feedback is really helping me to refine the content, and I really do appreciate it. And so the next episode, we will be going into how to create your own V2 Treasury Minter, because at the end of the day, this is the real key. To really understand this system, you should try and create some for yourself, and who knows where it could take you in the next bull market. So thank you very much. Take care.